My name is Jason Medlock, and you're watching Expansion of Consciousness, where we explore the powers of the subconscious mind, learn to reprogram the mind for success using quantum hypnosis, teaching mental strategies for athletes, coaches, and business professionals that produce peak performance. Also using meditation and mindfulness to build more focus. Let's get to it right now.
I want to welcome you to the Transform Your Mindset Bootcamp with the fascination with the human mind. The fascination with consciousness is what drives you.
You cannot miss the fact that mental training techniques roll right in the dynamic of the actual training process. Wow. Welcome to the Mental Game Plan. I'm your host, Jason Medlock. And again, we're going to have another special show for you today. And I just cannot wait to get started. But again, welcome, guys. Welcome to another insightful episode, where we explore the critical intersection of physical prowess and mental resilience. This will be guiding you to elevate your performance both on and off the field. And I'm thrilled. But today we have a remarkable individual whose life story embodies the essence of our show's mission. And yes, right. Marc Paisant is a certified personal trainer and the dynamic voice behind the Relatively Normal and 6amrun.com podcast. Marc's journey is one of extraordinary depth, bridging elite athletics with profound mental health advocacy. Marc's a former collegiate athlete and has seamlessly woven his expertise in fitness with a deep commitment in mental well-being, demonstrating that strength is not much about the mind as it is about the body. Through his life's work, Marc illuminates the path for navigating stress, ADHD, anxiety, and depression, offering a beacon of hope and understanding for many of his dedicated followers. Marc is a therapy and counseling paired with his innovative approach to physical training has shaped his life and inspired others to pursue wellness in most holistic forms. Marc is an ISSA certified trainer, including being an elite trainer and specialist in strength and conditioning, laying the groundwork for his expertise. Yet it's personal experiences and openness, and I love that, openness, in discussing therapy's impact on his life and truly resonating with others. Marc uses his platform to advocate for mental health awareness, pushing the boundaries of what it means to be fit, healthy, and fundamentally human. So whether you're an athlete facing the pressures of competition, a professional navigating the complexities of work and life, or anyone in between, Marc's insights today promise to be enlightening for all to enjoy. Let's get Marc on the Mental Game Plan, but we want to welcome him, and we're honored to have him share his journey and his wisdom with us today. Let's get Marc on right now. Hey there, Marc, how are you?
Jason, I am great. I don't think I've ever been introduced so well before. Thank you so much. I am definitely honored to be here.
And that's awesome. And, I want to give everybody a really good professional introduction, because, when I read these bios and I look at people's website and I sort of try to live through what they've accomplished and what they've gone through, it definitely deserves, deep concentration when you're trying to, let the audience know some of the things that you're about. And when I think about when you're integrating physical and mental health, that's big. That's something that I do. Most of the people that come on the show, they're sports psychologists, they're coaches, they're athletes, and everybody is trying to understand the mind. And but I want to just dive right in. And I know your journey emphasizes the relationship between physical fitness and mental health. So, Mark, how do you recommend individuals start integrating these aspects into their daily lives, and what transformative impacts have you observed in the process?
This is, I'm gonna turn 45 later this month, and this has been a lifelong journey for me.
Yeah.
And at no point will I ever say I've reached that point or I've found my answer. I've done, like, I'm in that growth mindset perpetually. And one of the things that it took me a long time to figure out, and I'm still figuring out as I coach, the younger generation, is that sports plays such a big role in an athlete's life. And what I mean, everybody's, of course it does. Like, we understand that, but like, I'm trying to have people understand, like, people's anxiety levels, how they feel about themselves, how they feel about others, how they think others see them. A lot of times in a young athlete, that comes from how their practice was or how they did their game, how much playing time they got. Did they play with their friends? Did they play against good competition? Did they get, a positive remarks from their coaches or parents after the game? So a lot of these things that they're giving this physical just output, they're putting everything they have into it. It sets the tone for the rest of their day, their week, their month. But at no point for a lot of us do we ever talk about that. We just get ready for the next game. We just get ready for the next play, the next practice. And that's what I did as a kid. That's what I did. I would be totally upset after a game that I either didn't play or didn't play well. And that would be it. There would be no conversation about it. And of course, growing up, I'm not blaming anybody for this. Like, this is just how it was. It's how it's been. Especially for young male athletes of color. Like, that's we're just used to put the ball in the hoop, to score the touchdown, to hit the home run, to run fast, to be strong. A lot of times that's what we're used for. And I don't need all that. I don't need the emotions. I don't need you to do that. This is what I need you to do. And a lot of times that came from a Black coach.
Yes.
And that's there's a reason in movies we see that interaction with Black coaches and Black athletes where a lot of times it's not friendly.
Yeah.
It's this is how we motivate you, is how we inspire you. And I'm trying to not take away the toughness. I don't want to take that away. Like, I think we could all use some toughness, but what I'm trying to integrate into the game is having people understand that it is okay that you don't feel good about your performance. It's okay that something made you sad. It's okay that you're upset that your buddy got injured or that you lost on a last second shot. Like, being stoic and just keeping it all in, it never leads to positive outcomes or positive consequences. It always, people keep filling into a cup that's already full. They keep filling it and filling it and filling it and not finding ways to decompress. That's where I want people to start integrating that physical and mental aspect of the game.
Mm. And basically, learning how to experience anxiety and experience stress, understanding the way you respond to it is the key.
Mhm.
And compartmentalizing and understanding that it exists and feelings are okay and creating a safe space. So, Mark, your approach to balancing physical fitness with mental wellness, that really resonates deeply. It's compelling. Compelling on how this integration can act as a catalyst for, profound personal growth. And it builds resilience. So I applaud you. I mean, with that level of insight, that inspires people, and I'm hoping it inspires our listeners that they can be tough and they can be solid and they can be very, very focused, but they can live and play with a purpose, and they can play with a more harmonious lifestyle in the same breath, because you don't want sports to suffocate you. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want it to be your all. You know, and you have a pretty good feel for overcoming the lows of life. You know, and even in your journey, you've encountered and overcome significant challenges. Could you share with the audience a moment that you consider a low point, and you know, maybe how you navigated through it using mental and physical strategies?
You know, first thing I always like to tell people is that if you were to look back at my life and with the microscope all the way through, and you know, from the time I was born to, you know, when I turned 18 or 21, wherever you consider me an adult, there's nothing you could look at that says, yeah, that was the trauma inducing point that we understand. Okay, it makes total sense. I grew up in the suburbs. I have a twin brother. I have an older sister. I had, you know, I grew up in a two-parent household. My father is still with us. My mother, we lost her a couple years ago to cancer. But if you look back, it's like nothing is just glaring at you. Nothing says that's it. However, I was, of all the kids, I was the emotional one. I was the one. Listen, I was a mama's boy, and I'll say that to the day I die. Like me and my mother were extremely close. I could tell her everything. I remember having conversations with her about the first time I had a girlfriend and how I felt about her. And my mom just listened, and she wanted to be there. You know, and when I got to college, because I kind of want to keep this sports related, when I got to college and I went to the Clemson men's soccer team, I was the best goalkeeper in Georgia. I was the best goalkeeper in Georgia for the last 2 years, and I thrived in that position. I thrived because I felt myself getting better. I felt myself just really being in a place where I belonged on that soccer field, helping my team win, a popular kid, you know, homecoming king my senior year. Like everything was like, it felt good. It felt really good. But I get to Clemson and everyone's the popular kid. Everyone's the best, you know, player in the state. Everyone has people talking about them all the time. And I'd never been in that position before. I didn't know. I'm trying to make friends. These guys are trying to win starting positions. You know, I'm trying to integrate myself into the into the team. And at the same time, I'm kind of jumping into this form of masculinity I'd never been around before. I'm around adults now that are playing soccer, and I'm around people that will do anything they can to get on the field. I felt extremely lost. For the first time in my life, I felt lost on the soccer field. I could go on it, I could practice on it, but I didn't feel like I belonged on it. It wasn't my soccer field anymore. It wasn't my sport anymore. It wasn't something I truly loved anymore. And it was because it was a different kind of sport than I was used to. And that's when I decided as a 18, 19-year-old that I needed to speak to somebody. Like something wasn't right. Something I couldn't explain it to myself. And to this day, I can't tell you why I went into a therapy session. I don't know why I went into the clinic at Clemson and scheduled a therapy appointment, but I did. And it was one of the best decisions I'd ever made as a teenager, because I got to sit down and talk to someone who had no hidden agenda. He had no, let me get this guy right so he can get back on the field. He had none of that. He just wanted to listen to me express myself, which I have to say was extremely awkward for me, because I'm used to that dynamic where I say something and the immediate answer is like, oh, well, I went through this too. This is what happened to me. And it's like, okay, well, there goes, there goes what I needed to talk about. Or, you know, what you usually get at that age is, hey man, just forget about it. Forget about her, forget about the game, forget about this, forget about the test, let's just go do this. And it's like, I mean, I guess so. Like, I guess this is how men talk about this. But I finally got someone who was like, no, let's sit in this space and let's discuss it. Let's cope with it. Let's actually acknowledge it and validate these feelings, which change my perspective on everything in regard to mental health.
Yeah. Yeah. Your openness about facing and overcoming low points, Mark, man, really offers a powerful message
Mhm.
of hope and strength. And I had another friend of mine, former professional athlete, Dr. Jay Barnett. He's a mental health expert, and I think he has a series or a speaking event called just Heal Bro. And he came on the show and he said some of the same things that you were talking about, but it's a testament just to the human spirit of resilience. And it is a huge impact when you integrate mental and physical strategies just to try to heal and try to grow from that. So I guess, when we're talking about this same topic, the role of therapy that it plays in your life, I guess that's very important. I know it's very important. Therapy has played a crucial role in managing, um, so to speak, your mental health. Can you share with us why therapy was so effective for you, and how did it complement the fitness regimen that you underwent?
So I mean, you can't stop me from talking about therapy. Like it just,
Yeah,
I try to talk about as much as I can,
I
and
think these young athletes and young people out here need to hear it.
yeah, listen, I'm 6'5", I'm
Uh-huh.
235 pounds, black man, and I figured the more I talk about therapy, it's like because I don't fit the
Yeah,
bill for someone who talks about it. The more I talk about it, the more I talk about my anxiety, the more I talk about the times that I'm down, some young black athlete, male black athlete, is going to look at me and say, wait a second, like if he is talking about it, then I can talk about it. Because that's what I'm doing it for. I'm making sure, and of course I want everybody to talk about it, but representation means a lot. It means a lot.
mhm.
And I just, therapy, I got the name of my show, Relative Normal, came from a therapy session. And I think that what I like to talk about is people, a lot of times people get their feelings on therapy is not exactly correct. Like they have the whole movie scene sitcom where you go in and you lay down and the person is just dissecting your life, and they're giving you pointers and they're telling you that you had this relationship with your mother, and it's totally just psychoanalyzing you, which that can be a part of it. Like that can be a part of it, but that only puts the focus on therapy as like a reactive tool to someone who's gone through a bad time or someone who is depressed, and it's reactive, where therapy can be used as a proactive tool to prepare you for the things that life throws at you. And that's where I've kind of, I see it now, because when I say the two words mental health, or I say the words mental fortitude, or I say mental illness, or anything with that mental in front of it, a lot of times our brain goes directly to schizophrenia, bipolar, major depression, manic episodes. We go through these negative, or these quote unquote negative traits that people have, or negative feelings. When what I'm talking about, like the feeling of joy, me talking to you right now, that's mental health. That's me being mentally happy. And I want to, I'm going to stay in this space right now. The same way as if I got terrible news on the phone, or if I had a bad day mentally, or if I think I let somebody down, now I'm going to stay in that space too, because I don't want to run from either of them. I want to lean into both of them because they're both human emotions. And that is one of the things that I try to preach as much as I can to people, that when I talk about it, it's not going to be not necessarily going to be a down and just gloomy discussion. Hey, if I'm
Yeah.
joyful, if I'm happy for you, if you're happy for me, if we're having fun, if I haven't seen my buddy in 2 years and we see each other and it's like, I didn't know you're gonna be here, and like it's elation. I want to sit in that too. That's an emotion. So that's, and then bring therapy into all this, because a lot of people will do this, and it's, I'm not mad at them, but they'll have a good week, or last 2 weeks have been really good. I'm going to skip therapy this week. Why? Like, why would you do that? Why are you happy right now? Why are you joyful? What makes you happy? Let's discuss that. Let's stay in this moment, because if you just use therapy as a reactive tool for your down weeks or down months or down days, whatever it is, then are you truly learning your coping mechanism? Are you truly learning what makes you happy, or are you just trying to get out of that space? And therapists will tell you, my therapist told me, like, I want to hear from you when you're happy. Like, I want to see you in that moment, because that's part of your life. We kind of stick that to the side and said, no, therapy's only for the bad. No, mental health, therapy, talk about it all, live in those moments, because those are human emotions too.
Yeah. And I like the way that you are really pushing it, your advocacy for therapy, and, how it's really been a cornerstone in managing mental health alongside physical fitness. It's incredibly inspiring, and it should be incredibly inspiring to our young athletes, our African American and
Mhm.
Anglo, and whoever's playing sports and whoever's out there in the real world. It's incredibly inspiring, and it really breaks down barriers, and it encourages a more, so to speak, holistic approach to well-being. And I'm more of a holistic mindset coach. I'm a hypnotherapist. Um, um, I work with mental illness from a hypnotherapy standpoint, maybe not as much talk therapy. We don't do a lot of talk therapy, but we work with the subconscious mind. We work with the inner depths of the mind, changing neural pathways and creating new levels of thinking. But tackling stress, let's talk about that a little bit. And I know you've tackled it head on. With stress being really a silent killer. That's what that's what
Yes.
a lot of people say.
And it's true. It's absolutely true. I actually was just having this conversation last night or the night before with my wife in regard to, work related stress. And because she's a very dedicated worker, she's an attorney, and she gets she gets into her job, and she takes it home. I mean, she works from home half the time, but she takes it home with her. She thinks about it. She's very detail oriented. Like, she's the perfect attorney. But I was telling her, I was like, hey, I can tell that, you are stressed by this job. You think about it a lot. You have deadlines, you have, depositions and mediations. Like, I understand. And I asked her straight up, I was like, hey, do you know what stress does to the body? Do you understand that? And I wasn't asking in a way like, hey, I got you, or anything like that. I really wanted to, I didn't want to assume anything. Like, guys, we know, but like, I did not want to assume anything. So I explained it to her, say, hey, we have this great mechanism in our bodies as humans that we were born with, which is, fight, flight, or freeze. Those three things. That's what we do in stressful situations. And we got it from our ancestors who lived without electricity, lived without, running water, all this stuff. And they heard a sound in a dark cave, and they had a choice to make. The ones that were quick on their feet either were prepared to fight or would run away, flight.
Right.
The ones who weren't would freeze. And we know that if we freeze in that moment, and then somebody says, what happened? It's like, oh, I don't know. But that's what happens. In cortisol in the body is responsible for that decision making. But our ancestors were able to use that cortisol. They were to use it up because they would do one of the three. So if you stay in that constant state, which a lot of us do in the stressful times, whether we're talking about watching, political TV all day, if we talk about trying to raise a kid as a single parent, if we talk about trying to please a boss who's unpleasable, if we try to, coaching a team who you have to win the championship or you're going to get fired. If we talk about all these things, like we can run down the gambit. We have high levels of stress all the time. If you live a life where you're not decompressing, if you live a life where you're not doing something to manage that stress, because we cannot get rid of all the stress, neither do we want to. Stress is a key component to us making deadlines, being better husbands, being better fathers. Stress is a good part of life too. However, if we take the negative stress and we're not getting rid of it, we're not using it all, that cortisol just stays in your body and it ends up causing inflammation. It ends up, weight gain. It ends up all these bad things that it does that our bodies were not intended to keep all of this in our bodies. Like, this is scientific. This is not me just like being, and this is things I've learned becoming a strength and conditioning coach, becoming a nutritionist, like talking to all these people on the podcast.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. And I'm glad you pivoted to that. So tell me how you use your platform to educate and help people manage stress more effectively.
Yeah. So with that being said,
I'm glad you rolled into that.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's one of the reasons I wanted to do it, because I have been there a couple years ago. I had done so much work to lessen the stress in my life. I had done so much work to become just a more complete human being, that work wasn't going home with me, that I reverted back. I started working for a startup company, and anyone who's worked for a startup understands that there's no such thing as an 8-hour day. You don't do what your title says. You do everything. You work 12, 14-hour days. And one thing I want to say right now is what changed me. I'm not going to say changed me. I'm going to say it made me think about my lifestyle. Is that two things? One, I was running as much as I ran a lot back then. That's how I decompressed. But two, my daughter came home from school one day on a Friday, and it was after work hours. I should have been off. She said, Daddy, you want to go outside and shoot baskets with me? Because she loves sports. And I said, no, I can't. I have to work. And she went outside, and I looked at the computer screen, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? I mean, what bothers me the most is that I don't get that moment back. I've had plenty of moments since then, but I don't get that specific moment back. And this job was high stress. I had bosses who I couldn't please. But one thing that I tell people all the time, and it's harder said than done, but I want people, if you're listening and you're at a high stress job and you're able to do this is what kind of broke the cycle for me. I turned my computer off 5 o'clock one day, turned it off, left my home office, didn't turn it back on until 8 o'clock the next morning. It's a little anxiety producing, but I did it. I came into work, and I noticed my company didn't go under. The office didn't burn down. No one was mad at me. Nothing changed. Nothing that my brain told me was going to happen if I didn't stay and work late happened. And our feelings make things realities in our heads, and it's not always the case. So when we talk about stress, a lot of times we have to do the work with ourselves. We have to internally show ourselves that what our brains are telling us to do, because we feel these external forces telling us to do something, is just not true. It's not reality. So is it like ripping a Band-Aid off? Kind of, a little bit, but imagine ripping a Band-Aid off and you never had the cut in the first place. That's what it's like. It's like, okay, I'm putting Band-Aids everywhere because I'm working all these hours and I'm showing people. And it's like, wait a second, you didn't have to do any of that. But something internally told you did. And when I work with people in regard to stress relief, I always tell people, just find something. We overcomplicate so many things, but find something that won't add to your stress level mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. People love to dance.
Yeah.
Dance for 5 minutes. Dance for 5 minutes. People love to read. I haven't read a book in a year. Why not? 10 pages. Something that takes that energy and puts it into something you love. I love going to the gym. I love running. I love playing sports. I love coaching. I love producing and making podcasts. I light up when I do it. And then what happens is you see, I read for 10 minutes today and nothing happened. I got up and danced. I feel better and nothing happened. So you have to start putting yourself in those positions, being awkward for a little bit, that's what makes change and growth so fun, is that it's awkward and it's hard sometimes, but then it gets easier and easier. And that's easier said than done. You have to have some discipline, but that's what I feel has helped me a lot.
And if I may add to that, he's really saying as well, spend time with you, get to know you, move love into the center of your heart, and spend time by yourself. Maybe it's prayer, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's yoga, something that can quieten you so that you can remove the outside clutter and just spend that 10 minutes, 5 minutes, just spend that time with you. And your efforts to address and demystify stress management, using dialogue, open dialogue, using physical fitness, are to be commended, and they're crucial. And I really, really appreciate that, helping people move towards a healthier and more stress reduced life.
Mm-hmm.
But let's look at the term that you've used, moving beyond motion. You talked about moving beyond resilience and on motivation. How has this shift impacted your life, and what advice do you have for others looking to make a similar transition?
Moving beyond motivation.
Yes.
And it's one of those things. It's a happy place, and it's something that, again, like we talked about before, it's taken me a while to get to it. It's taken me my entire life to understand how fleeting motivation can be, how fleeting inspiration can be.
Mm-hmm.
And because every time somebody listening right now may say, God, you know what? I like that Mark guy. He's got, tomorrow morning, I'm going to throw away all my soda. I'm going to hit the gym. I'm going to write a book. We feel really good when we hear a good story about someone doing the right things.
Yeah.
But when you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, it is 6 o'clock. I am tired. Oh, let me just sit in this bed for another 15 minutes, and you roll off and spend 30 minutes, and now you don't. Motivation is fleeting. So what I do is I'm very honest with myself now, and I used to not be honest with myself. And then I get mad when other people were. How would that work? How is that? And at one point in my life, I looked in the mirror. I should have done this a couple times in my life. I looked in the mirror and I said, I want to be better. I want to do better. And when I was in my late 20s and early 30s after I got married, I told myself, I want to be able to run around with my kids. I want to be able to coach my kids at some point. I want to be just around for them. But the lifestyle I was living, being 320 plus pounds and not really working out and working a high stress job and coming home just sitting on the couch and not doing much. I knew that wasn't in my cards unless I changed something. And so that was one moment where I decided to start running, getting in shape. And I mentioned only that part of it because at that moment in my life, I was just focused on physical fitness. I just looked in the mirror. I didn't like who I saw. Just focused on physical fitness. I had the discipline to run every day. I did have that. But I was doing nothing for up top. I was doing nothing for up. And people need to understand that there is a difference. There is a big, like, and this is where I go back to therapy. I love how everything connects.
Yes.
I lost over 100 pounds and I felt terrible. And again, I can't tell you why I did it, but I called my therapist. I hadn't seen him in a couple months. Called him. And I remember being at my office outside of Baltimore, Maryland. And I mean, it was hard for me to talk to him because I was choking up.
Yeah.
And I said, Doc, I'm like, I've lost the weight. I've gotten in shape. I bought the house. I'm married. I mean, wow, this was the plan. Everything was supposed to work out. And, he told me, he's like, did you feel that if you just got in shape and checked all the boxes, like mentally you'd be okay? And I was honest. I said, yes, that was the plan.
Right.
That was the plan the whole time. And he said, no, you have to do both of them. You have to do both of them.
Yeah.
And I remember going to go see him. And it was this one day that I can't explain why I was upset, why I felt the way I did. And he asked me, he's like, Mark, what do you want? Just tell me what you want. Where do you want to go? And I told him, I said, I want to be normal. Like all these people I see walking around with smiles on their faces and happy. The sun is out. I'm not, I want to be normal. And he said, Mark, your normal is relative. He's like, you have different stressors than everybody else. So you have to work on your coping mechanisms. And that stuck with me to this day. And so, COVID hits and I'm not mentally, I'm trying to stay focused. Mentally, I'm doing a great job staying focused. Physically, I'm not there. I've gained some weight because I know this story. I know, Mark, if you don't stay locked in mentally, I know where this is going. The world's on fire. You know how empathetic you are. Stay focused. Stay focused. Why aren't you taking care of yourself physically? So this is all, I know I'm speaking a lot about, but I want to kind of get to this point about the discipline, because I started working out again and going to the gym and going running. But I would come home and I'd still have the problems that I had at work or in the house. They were still bugging me. So I would feel like I got nothing out of the run. So I changed one little thing out of every workout session. Instead of working out or running to go away from my problems, I leaned into them.
Yes. There we go.
I thought about them. I said, no, this is, I'm going to make sure that this is I'm going to live in this space. And what would happen is that I would get a better burn. I would come back refreshed. I would come back with ideas. I would come back ready to absolutely take over the world. And I was like, where was this 20 years ago? Where was this when I was in college? But I'm like, you know what? There is no day better than today. There is no day better than today. And now I know, because of what I've done in the past, I have the discipline right now that I know if I take care of my body, if I take care of my mental, if I take care of my emotions, my spirit, I'm taking care of my family, I'm taking care of my friends, I'm taking care of the work I need to do. It's not reversed. It's not reversed. I have the discipline to know how I feel after. So if I wake up at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock to go work out and I'm tired, my brain automatically switches to think how you're going to feel in 2 hours.
I love that because I use a similar technique called habit stacking.
Yes.
And I can hear it, you and your therapist using habit stacking techniques. So I hear that. And your perspective on motivation, Mark, it challenges this conventional wisdom, and it really offers a refreshing take on sustaining progress through discipline. You keep saying discipline and routine. Just
Yes.
valuable lessons in persistence and consistency for the listeners. And you guys listen to Mark because this brother is really trained his mind, but he's listened to his therapist. But when you were talking about stressors and anxiety, positive quotation, PQ reps, emotional intelligence reps. I know you probably used those before, but that's something that's that people have used. But let's move to how you encourage emotions. Encouraging emotions in children. So, as a parent, how do you encourage your kids to express their feelings, and what role would you say does this play in relieving pressure and obviously promoting mental health?
I say it like this. At no point will my kid fall down and I will not, I will invalidate the fact that they're hurt, or at least have bumps and bruises. Like I won't invalidate that. I won't see them scrape their knee and say, oh, your knee is not hurt.
Right.
So I don't do that for emotions either. If you're sad, if you're happy, if you're lonely, if you're bored, that's what you are. That's what you are. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you you're not. And I grew up in a household where, we got plenty of freedom, but it was a strict household. And at certain points, you were not allowed to be sad, not allowed to be upset. I have only one rule when it comes to emotions, when it comes to my daughters, and that is if you're going to cry and not talk about it, you have to do it in your room. Like, I don't want you to get in the habit of having people having to guess your emotions right now.
Right.
Because
holding people hostage with your emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because to a kid, crying could mean they're happy, they're hungry, they're emotional, it could mean a myriad of things. And the only thing that I try to instill in them is that you be the writer of your own story. Don't let someone leave the situation and say, oh, such and such was crying because, she was upset that this happened. Don't let somebody else write that story. You have the ability to speak on how you feel.
Right.
And because there is a superpower that comes from being a dad. I'm not going to talk about superpower. Mothers have millions and millions more, but I'm saying superpower dad is like, we know when something is wrong. We do. And we learned it from dating and marrying your mother, most likely, because she's the one that made us guess and be trying to figure out, okay, something's wrong. But I tell them all the time, it's like, listen, I'm your number one advocate. I'm your number one supporter. As long as there's air in my lungs, like there's no one's going to support you more than I will. However, that does not mean I do all the work. That does not mean that you get a free pass to just say, do, feel, and like you have to do the work with me. So, I let them be kids and feel feelings. And I also don't badger them for being upset or being, kids are pretty fun. Let me rephrase that. Kids are pretty funny in the fact that the littlest things will upset them. The littlest things, like if you go to a store with them and you don't buy them anything, even though they have 3 of everything in the store already, that upsets them because that act of you spending money to give them something in their hands is so rewarding for them. So we have to talk about that. We talk about that. And I say, hey, think about the time you had with me. Like, is that totally out the window because you did not leave with this $5 piece of plastic?
Right.
And you can see their brains start to spin. They're like, well, no. I was like, would you rather me leave you at home, not spend time with me, and just go grab that and come back? Well, no, I want to spend time with you. There you go. Now we're starting to think about it.
So I'm gonna move you along because we don't have a lot of time. I
Okay.
still have some more points that I want to really
Okay.
get to. I'd like for you to express to the audience, but one of them is your personal health routine. And this is a good one because, this is for the audience. How often do you work on your mental and physical health? And how do you maintain this balance in a busy schedule?
Every day is my answer. Every day. It is some mental health every day, physical health I try to get every day. But my schedule, let me say this as plainly and just black and white as I can. My schedule is never too busy to work on me, physically or mentally. It's the first thing I do most mornings. And I want people to understand that you have the time, you do. And the more you put into yourself, the easier it gets and the better person you are for it too. Like the better, Jason, I am a better husband, father, friend, coworker, cousin, son, everything when I take care of my mental and physical health. And that could be, you're talking about being alone. That could be me being 5 minutes in a quiet room saying affirmations to myself. Mark, today is going to be a good day.
I'm glad you're saying this. There's a lot of young competitive athletes out here, women and female, that need to hear this. And they need, but you can start to see the shift in pros, college, high school, young men and young women. They're starting to create this space for themselves. And I'm so happy to see that some institutions, not all, not all are giving these guys this space, but too many of them are giving them the space after they get everything they need from you. And that's not how it should go.
No, not at all.
Well, let's talk about ADHD. I know there's some skepticism around ADHD. How do you how do you help with the misconceptions? And what do you say to those who doubt the legitimacy of ADHD? Because we know a lot of our brothers and sisters deal with that.
Could be a cold answer, but I don't. I'm not one who's going to waste my time trying to change somebody's mind who has no bearing on my life. I have talked to my primary care. I've talked to therapists. I've talked to my daughter who has it also. And I talked to her doctor, and we're good right now. We're good.
Right.
There's too many times in our lives where we give so much energy to people who have no bearing on our lives. And I know what it feels like to be on and off of Adderall. I know what it feels to be extremely tired and my mind can't focus on anything. I know what it feels like to be extremely rested and I can focus. I don't give them the time of day. Now, if somebody wants to sit down and talk to me about what I've experienced and what I've seen in my daughter, because women and men have different symptoms, then we'll talk about it. We can talk. You don't have to believe a word I say. You don't have to take anything from it. We can talk about it. However, if you're going to sit here and tell me, Mark, it's not real, I don't know why, then thank you. Have a good day. I wish you the best and no hard feelings. I know what I've been through and I know what I see with my daughter.
Yeah. Something interesting I read that that your bio and a lot of the numerous things that are out there on you is your approach to being always wrong. It's
Yeah.
pretty humorous, but at the same time, it's humbling. You know, I'm wondering, how has this mindset that you've taken on impacted your relationships and your personal growth?
It makes me a better listener and makes me a better friend, because what I mean by that is, we could be talking about anything, and it could be something important, something not important, it could be at work, whatever it is. Um, Whenever there is something that needs to be done or a task that needs to be completed, and I know what to do, and I think I know what to do, and I've been there before. I always back up a second and I say to myself, what if I am completely wrong? What if I am the wrong one here? And what it does is it opens up my critical thinking.
Right.
It opens up my listening. I was like, I'm the wrong one. Let me listen to what they have to say. Maybe they're right. Or I say, there's a different approach. I need to do it a different way. I'm not saying I am wrong. I'm not saying 2 plus 2, I think it's 4, but maybe, well, it opens up my 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. That's another way to get that. That's a basic breakdown of it. But I started doing that a long time ago because I just wanted to understand where the other person was coming from, right or wrong. And we see this a lot with people who are narcissists. We see a lot of people who gaslight. We see a lot of people who do things that we don't feel is justifiable. And then when I do that, I say to myself that there's a reason they do this. This has worked for them in the past. They don't need me to badger them or beat up on them or tell them how wrong they are. They just need me to show them some empathy and some love and tell them that I hear you. I understand you. Let's work. And it totally changes the whole temperature in the room from combative, competitive, contentious, to empathetic and understanding. People start listening more. People start understanding. And I tell you what, I really feel if more conversations and discussions went that way, we'd be all better for it. It tells you that we don't have to agree on anything, but it also tells you that there's a lot more that we have in common than the opposite.
Can you tell us what you have new going on, or any kind of offers or specials, and let the audience know where you are and how they can contact you?
Yeah. So I send people to, my new website, just markpaisant.com. And that's where you can find, info about me, reaching out, either coaching or training, and also the links to the 6 a.m. Run podcast and the Relatively Normal podcast. We have new episodes of both of those shows dropping this week and dropping all spring. We're getting to the end of season 2 of 6 a.m. And I mention this all the time before you even think about like reaching out to me and either do virtual training. I'm out north of Atlanta if you want to do some one-on-one soccer training or just gym training. Before you do any of that, like, to anybody out there, especially the men, if you feel like no one listens to you, or you can't talk about your feelings, or life is hard, like, I respond and I talk to people, and I put this out any show I'm on, and on my show, if you contact me, LinkedIn, Instagram, markpaisant.com, whatever, and you just say, Mark, I heard you, and there's some things I've wanted to say and there's no way I can talk to, I'll give you my number. We can talk. If you don't want to call, if you don't want to talk, I'll give you my email. We can text. But I'm here to listen. And before you think about like getting with me and doing training and things like that, and you just need to talk, let's talk. Let's do that.
Wow. And Marc Paisant's information and his social media links will be included, in the show notes. So when this show goes live, guys, you'll have his information. But Marc, I want to thank you for coming on the Mental Game Plan. And you are truly a treat. But just the openness, sharing your story and the way you work with other people is absolutely fantastic. And thank you again for coming on, and we really appreciate you.
The pleasure is all mine, Jason. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so stay there. I'm going to close it out. I'm going to say some more nice things about you. So just don't go anywhere, bro. Okay. So, wow. Okay. Marc Paisant, what a wonderful, wonderful person to speak to. Uh, Mark's journey and his insights today have really enlightened us on the symbolism of mental illness and physical health and the power of vulnerability, the importance of therapy, and embracing life's challenges with resilience and grace. To the audience out there, let Mark's story inspire you to take proactive steps towards mental and physical well being. And guys, remember, you're not alone. You're not alone on this journey. Mark, I'm telling you this. Thank you for joining us on the mental game plan and just sharing your invaluable experiences and wisdom. I mean, it's just really, really awesome for athletes, average everyday people, business people to hear what you had to say. But for more insights into managing mental and physical health and developing a strong mindset and stories of resilience and triumph, continue to tune into the mental game plan. Share this episode with some of your friends, someone who might need to hear this message today from Marc Paisant. And remember to subscribe for more inspiring content. Let's build a community of strength, support, and endless growth. And I'm going to leave you with these last three words. And I say it at the end of every episode: trust, relax, and discover. Thank you guys so much. Good night.